like the title says, if I were to start riding gravel in 2025 and needed my first bike, this is probably the direction I would go. I think probably for about 80% of y'all, this is going to line up pretty good. We're not talking about a specific make, we're not talking about a specific model. We're going to be talking about features at a certain price point or potentially lower that you really should be keeping an eye out for and take into consideration when you ultimately make your bike choice. This is going to be a really good fit for experienced riders that are maybe changing disciplines. Here's another really good one. Experienced cyclists that maybe have been out of the game for a while and want to get back into it with modern equipment. If you think you would like to have a bike in your garage that you could do almost anything with for the next 10, 15 years, even if you're not riding 100 miles at a time, 5 times a week, this could still be a good always have ready to go bike. But if you're just looking for that $200 Walmart bike, probably not a good fit. If you're the type of rider that's just got to have the blingiest, the fanciest, the show-offiest, the braggiest, this isn't going to be a good fit for you. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that's not where we're going here. There's definitely a segment of the market out there that is completely anti-bike shop for whatever reasons. It's probably not going to be a good fit for you. But you might still want to tag along, if nothing else, so you can comment and disagree with me and tell me where I'm wrong. I'm used to being told I'm wrong, trust me. So if any of that sounds like it fits you, let's go look at a bike. Yes, we are at Mad Duck, but we're not being shop specific, we're not being brand specific. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. I'm probably gonna do a little bit talking about it in here.
Okay.
But if it's okay, I'm gonna take it and put it out in the sun somewhere in the stand.
Beautiful.
And go over it in detail. Is that cool?
I like it.
Thank you, sir. So here's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the Cannondale Topstone 2, right, Clarence? The 2. $2,000, and that's MSRP, right? That's not duck price or current bike industry woes price, right?
MSRP.
So what we're talking about here is a Cannondale Topstone 2, aluminum frame, hydraulic brakes, carbon fork, name brand drivetrain. This one's Shimano. And just all around good parts, stuff we like in general. Now, here's some stuff to really consider when you're looking at if you were to get a bike, a gravel bike in 2025, what do I need to be looking for? Obviously, you need to be looking for disc brakes. Huge factor. Some of the things some people don't think about, check out this triangle. Check out all of that area in there. If by chance somewhere down the road you get bike packing curious, that makes a big difference. But also along those lines, multiple mounting points for bottles and multiple bottle cages, and you can slide them up and down here. Configuration, top tube bag, even have some rear rack mounting points, things like that. At this price point, that's a nice all-around package. Things I also like very much. Not just disc brakes, hydraulic disc brakes in this case. And this is Shimano. And I'm not dissing SRAM. SRAM's good too. The point being, there's lots of benefits to that. If things go sideways, if parts go bad, you can get replacement parts, and people know how to work on this stuff. Now, here's something that at first people may be looking at this bike going, oh, that ain't gonna work, Kevin. Look at those skinny tires. Yeah. This might be the one downside on this bike in that it doesn't come with my preferred meat size. I believe these are 37s. Perfectly adequate to get started. It's got clearance for 45s though. 40 to 45s. That's going to cover 98% of what you would ever want to do. Some of the bikes are taking 50s now. That's fine. Nothing wrong with bigger. But this takes that 45 millimeter tire, which is going to be ideal. And these tires are tubeless ready and can be easily converted to tubeless. That's huge. You may not, at this price point or lower, you're probably not going to get a bike that's already tubeless. You're probably going to have to upgrade, and everything being tubeless ready makes a big difference there. Let's go take this outside, put it in the light, and get a little bit more detailed on the go over. This is really cool. I am so glad I brought it out in the sunshine. Not showing here. Maybe we'll put it more out in the direct sun for a closing shot. But this has a sick ass blue metal flake glitter thing going that I absolutely love. Man, I'm falling in love with this bike. I'm not here to sell a Cannondale Topstone 2 per se. This is a great bike. I would have no trouble with this being my first gravel bike if I were to go out and start riding gravel in 2025. What I want to make a point of, these are the basic features that'll suit 80% of the market or more. Like I said, $2,000 MSRP. And yeah, I know some people are going to knee jerk, oh, I can get a bike for $1,000. Yeah, you can get a $1,000 bike, but you can't get a bike of this level, quality and components for $1,000. Now that said, if you are one of those that is bound and determined to buy mail order, tell you what, at the end of this, I'll give my two, what I consider bona fide, for lack of a better term, mail order suggestions, depending on the type of rider or bike you're looking for. But I do firmly believe most people should be going to a shop. Aluminum frame, there is nothing wrong with aluminum, particularly when you start going gravel with 40 millimeter and up tires. Any perceived benefit from carbon dampening or whatever else, that goes away with bigger rubber. Here's another thing that some people knee-jerk might go, oh, well, this is a downside. Look at this, Kevin. Oh my God, it's a 2x setup. It's not one chain ring, it's two. How dare we? It's 2025 and only 10 speeds. Oh my God, that's the end. No, it's not the end of the world. The reality is, my guess is within the next year or two, you're going to see most gravel bikes going back to 2x setups to begin with. Ultimately, you do have the wider gear range without having to go to 11, 12, or even 13 speeds on the cassette. And once you start adding more gears back here, the chain gets thinner, the spacing gets thinner, it just gets ultimately more finicky. And you know what? You don't want a gravel bike to be finicky because you're going to vibrate. You're going to screw shit up. Another benefit, clutch derailleur. Big difference for gravel. I have a lot of bike snob in me. I traditionally, myself, for years have not bought Cannondale, Specialized, Giant, Trek. Not that there's anything wrong with those. I'm not implying that. It's more like a cigar aficionado, a coffee snob, a wine snob. Hey, I will drink my barefoot wine every once in a while, but every once in a while, you know, if I'm going to buy a case that I'm going to keep for myself, it might be a little higher end. That's all I'm saying. I would be perfectly happy rocking this bike, but Cannondale, Trek, Specialized, Giant, those major brands, that makes a big difference, particularly if you're first starting out. You can go anywhere in the country and have them serviced. Warranties are there. You know what you're getting. All of the brands all make good bikes right now. So when you stick with a national brand, when you stick with a known brand, that does make a difference. And ultimately, we need to be supporting our local bike shops. You really need to lean on a bike shop unless you are just one of those people that is just so caught up in wrenching everything for yourself, and that's the main part of your hobby. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the case. I'm one, I prefer riding my bike as opposed to working on it. Some more benefits here. We were talking about this particular model. Man, this is a really cool bike for $2,000. The carbon fork, but then you have the mounting bosses here that you can go multiple different positions. I mean, it was just a couple years ago people were jumping through hoops to cover basic features like that. one more manufacturer I'm going to throw into the mix, because kudos to them, particularly on the gravel and the adventure side. I will throw Salsa in that mix as well, as far as the national name brands go for gravel and adventure. And we have owned a number of Salsas over the years, and we do have a couple in the house right now. The highlights for $2,000 or less, I'm sure all the major manufacturers have something in that price range. And if you're focusing on the less, make sure it cares for a lot of these things. Main thing, 45 millimeter tire clearance, 50 is even better, but you want at least 42. I would say you want at least 45. You can get by with 40. I would recommend more. Anything under 40 millimeter, just don't even consider that bike. I'm a big fan of the 2x setup. And here's another thing along those lines. A gravel bike makes a fantastic do-everything bike. That's a huge difference, particularly if you are just getting into bike riding. This is a fantastic do-everything bike. You could even take this on mountain bike trails. Stay sane. You can take it on group road rides. That's a benefit of this 2x gearing. The biggest shortfall to 1x setups on gravel bikes, if you do go out on a group road ride, it may have too small of a chainring, a 42 or possibly even a 40, that if you're in a faster group ride, you're going to spin out and run out of gears and won't be able to keep up. This is a 4630, I believe. That gives you all the gear range in the world. 46 and probably an 11. Cog back here. Unless you are throwing down 1200 watts constantly, you're going to be able to spin that to keep up with just about any group out there. But even you throw that 30 chain ring and whatever the biggest cog is, it's not one of the big pie plate ones, it's not a 50 or anything, let's call it a 36. Maybe I don't think it's a 40. 30, 36, let's call it that. You can still go up the steepest hill on that, just as much as you could on a pie plate with a 40-tooth chain ring. So you have all the gearing range you could possibly want on this. Hydraulic disc brakes, that's a big difference. Personally, I'm not a tremendous fan of internal cable routing, but everybody does it these days. Here's a strong case for this particular bike. At least it's not the internal routing that's going in through the headset. That's a whole different gamut of stuff. Name brand components all the way around. None of these are, what brand is that? Never heard of them. We've got WTB tires and wheels. We got Shimano drivetrain. Obviously Cannondale fork. FSA cranks. Physique saddle. Cannondale stem and seat post. Probably a Cannondale bar. Look for those basic features, not specifically a Cannondale Topstone, but in any bike. I think you can get it for $2,000 or less. And this is a bike that you can ride happily ever after if you want to be there. But if nothing else, you haven't overcommitted, and it will tell you what its shortcomings are 2 years down the road when you want to go to that next level, or even 6 months down the road if you get there. And this will always make a fantastic backup bike. Put it on the trainer bike, put road tires on it and ride that road group ride, and have another dedicated gravel sled, or a loaner bike to a friend that you get so dialed in with cycling you want to drag your friends along as well. Does it show? Yeah. Ooh, look at those sparkles. Look at those sparkles. That's sexy. That's sexy. I'm going to do this with the Bike Shop logo behind me, because I am a big proponent of the bike shops. I'm a proponent of Mad Duck. We're fantastically graced in Dallas-Fort Worth area in that we have a tremendous number of fantastic shops that we're able to work with. But for those of you that are just bound and determined to do things mail order or direct or whatever. I do have two bike brands that if you know exactly what you're doing fit wise, if you know exactly what you're doing for adjustments, if you know what you're doing for your own wrenching and everything like that. Let's say you're an experienced mountain biker and you just want to dip your toe into gravel and maybe try something. And you know how to work on everything. You hate going to the shop for whatever reasons. I would not discourage looking at State bicycles, and they have a steel and aluminum line. They even have this crazy titanium one for I think $2,400 or something like that. I haven't ridden State yet myself. I definitely would like to. State, if you're listening and you want to send me a demo bike, I'm happy to check it out. But I do know enough people that ride States that I trust their opinions. That if I had to buy a lower end mail order bike, I would highly consider State bicycles myself. Moving up the ladder, and I do have experience with this brand, I have no problem putting the Kevin stamp of approval. This isn't the Spinistry stamp, but this is Kevin's personal opinion. I have experience with Loft bikes and their products, and wholeheartedly endorse those for the people that they're right for. It's not for me to say who they're right for and who they're not, but if you're looking at a Loft and you're comfortable buying direct and fitting yourself and everything like that, I would have no trouble endorsing Loft stuff myself. And I'll be honest with you, outside of that, Loft and State on a direct mail, direct buy basis, I'm not saying the others are bad. There's just no one else that all right, yeah, go do that if you just have. Those are two that for the low end of things and the higher end of things, but where Loft comes into the factor as well is that Loft fork is distinctly different. If you want the Loft fork, you have to buy direct, is ultimately what it boils down to. And their bikes make that worthwhile if you're looking to go in that route. But again, 90% of us would do better to go to our local shop like Mad Duck or others that I wholeheartedly endorse. Do what works best for you. Support your local shop. Name brand bike, aluminum frame, big triangle, 45mm clearance, bolt-ons, name brand components, wide gear ranging, and I think that's it. Leave comments where I'm wrong, okay? Thanks.